Okay, I was just checking my settings quick. Okay, so this should be perfectly fine. Like, why can't Facebook just let you do this natively?
Yeah, that was so handy, especially if you like it when you go live. Like,
I know, like, make it easy so that people don't need to, get these expensive tools and stuff, but okay, I think it's gonna work. I think it was yeah, I don't know what was up with that meeting link. Okay, it looks like it's working. Okay, cool. So I just have to quickly put the title in. And what was the title? No, just typed it in meeting. Okay, how to quit your job. Broad. How to start. Groups. Okay. I don't want to do that. Oh my gosh, why is it doing? Okay, how to quit your job and start a new life abroad. And then I had your text all ready to go, except then we got sidetracked. Okay, we'll be ready in one momento.
yay.
And I'm just gonna ask the same, questions, but it's cool in this format because you kind of like go off on side tangents and things like that. So
I did pull up my answers because I know I wrote a lot of things.
Yeah, no, totally fine. And don't feel like you could totally say the same thing if you want to say something different, if you want to skip things. Because I know in the way you wrote it, there was some lists, like, which might be, you might say it differently or decide not to say it. So it's just totally up to you, whatever feels natural.
I felt like it was like so, I don't know, there were like so many things to say about all the questions. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. I know I'm the type of person too who like, I share a lot. So I'm like, oh, like it's hard I could say this, I could say that.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I was doing it. And I was like asking my boyfriend, I was like, is this too much? He's like, yes, stop talking.
No one needs to know like what you had for lunch on the plane.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got our text and I'm popping it in there. Just I'm listening. Grab your favorite beverage and join. As I'm live with. Okay, we're just gonna go live. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
So long. And then I'm just gonna be looking at my phone a little bit. I think we are live. I'm just checking it on my phone to see. It always like goes live. Yep, we're live. It goes live before it actually shows me we're live. All right, so thank you so much. Sorry we're a little late with this. My Zoom link like would not connect to Facebook, so I had to create a whole new meeting. But anyway, we're live now, so that's what really matters. So yeah, this interview with the lovely Janine, who I'll be introducing you to in a moment, is part of my Inspiring Travelers series. It's something that I've been doing for a while, and I do it about once per month usually. But because most of us are in quarantine now, I felt like it would be good to kind of move these interviews up, have some more live events, and just get everyone sort of connected. Luckily, while we're stuck in our homes, we have technology to kind of keep us all together, and we can still dream about travel, even though most of us are not flying right now. So on that note, let me just pull up my questions here and welcome Janine. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. So just to get this whole thing started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yep. So I'm Janine. I'm from Vancouver Island, Canada originally, and about 3 years ago, I quit my job and moved from California to Mexico. And there's a lot of reasons behind that we're going to talk about now. But since I've been here, I started a blog called Janine in the World, and I help women travel Mexico safely and confidently.
I love it. And I'm a huge fan of your blog, and you're the perfect person to talk about what we're going to be talking about today, which is, moving abroad, becoming an expat, kind of starting a whole new life, which I think many travelers, whether you have seriously thought about it or you've sort of like played with the idea, it's probably something that's crossed your mind, like, ooh, do I want to kind of quit my job and maybe move abroad or try it for a short amount of time, or you start getting these ideas. So I'm so excited to hear what you have to say and hear about your experiences because you've actually done it. And for anyone watching, if at any point you have questions for Janine, I am going to be, if I look down at any point, it's because I'm kind of monitoring the chat and the video on my phone. So feel free to just ask any questions that pop up. So I'll get started. So, many people love travel, especially this community, and we all get into it for different reasons, and we all have different travel styles. Now, for you, you'd said to me it wasn't a quick vacation that was calling to you, but a complete lifestyle change. So what were you feeling and kind of what was going through your mind when you were like making this decision?
A lot of things. I was like in a huge transitional period in my life. I feel like I was I was like coming to the end of my 20s, and I felt like I wanted to kind of like figure out what I wanted long term for my life and like what kind of lifestyle I wanted, what kind of career I wanted. So I was doing a lot of soul searching, and I had this job that was fun, but not really something that really had any growth opportunities, I felt like, or any future, and I didn't want to stay in it. But what did happen was they had unlimited vacation. So as I started kind of figuring out that I wanted to change, I was like, okay, well, maybe like living abroad could be something I could try out. So I decided to take advantage of my unlimited vacation and head down to Mexico and kind of see if I thought it could be something that I could like make, like if I wanted to live there long term.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I just started exploring my options and feeling things out.
And then with that first trip, like for the kind of trial run, how long was that trip?
It was just about a week, like a week escape to the beach. And of course, like every time you go on a beach vacation, you're like, of course I want to be here forever. So it was like not like that crazy that I decided that I wanted to move. But I do remember like I don't think I was like fully honest with myself before I went. Like when I went, I was like, this is just a vacation. But it was sort of in the back of my mind. And then when I came back, I told my best friend, I was like, I'm moving to Mexico. And she's like, oh, I knew it. And that was so funny.
It's like she kind of knew before you, well, you probably knew too, you just weren't fully.
Yeah, like I was trying not to like get attached to the idea or something. Like I didn't think it was that realistic. But once I went, I was like, no, this is like what I want. So
How long do you feel like it was sort of like running through your mind, this idea, like, you have this job and, you said it was fine, but it wasn't what you really wanted and it had the unlimited vacation though. Like, how long were you sort of like, okay, this isn't for me. I would love to try living abroad. Like, I guess, like, how long was it like sitting in your mind before you were sort of like, okay, I'm doing it?
I think a really long time. So like it came in kind of stages because when I was in college, I did a study abroad in Mexico, which was why Mexico is kind of top of mind for me. And so that was in 2010. And basically ever since then, I'd wanted to live abroad, but I just kind of like went on with my life and started like my working and stuff. And I was like, well, I don't know like how I can really do that. And so it was always something that I wanted. And then once I got this job, like that job that I was in, I just like, I knew that it wasn't going to be forever. And so I started like reading about like location independence and stuff because we did a lot of working from home. So I was like, oh, this would be cool if like I could do this all the time. And so I started like reading about digital nomads and bloggers and stuff like that. And that kind of like spurred me to take a bit more action because I was like, okay, it's not like that rare. Like there are a lot of people that actually do this. And I thought, I could do that.
Yeah, I know that is kind of, I feel like I have my life coaching certification, and one like thing they teach you in that is having models. Like if you have a goal you want to reach or something you really want to do or change or something like that, you might sit on it and you're like, I'm not sure. But if you have these kind of like models that are relatable to you, it makes it much easier. And I feel the same way about blogging. Like, I mean, I started in 2011. I didn't even know what blogging really was, but I saw like I don't know, I thought to be someone who traveled all the time and made money from it, you had to be a celebrity, like a true celebrity on the Travel Channel.
Yeah.
And then I saw like regular people that kind of I felt like were similar to me who were
Yeah.
doing it. And I feel like that was really powerful to like actually taking the action, was seeing that it was possible from other people who'd already done it. So I
Yeah,
love
that's
that
so
idea.
true. That's like what happened to me too. Like I found a couple bloggers and like I don't know, like location independent workers and freelance writers and stuff. And I was like, okay, like these people obviously have more experience than me, but like they're not that different than me. So I don't
It's
see
not
why.
like they're like in a movie and then,
Yeah.
yeah, like they
Yeah.
still have that
Well,
same.
I'm smart and resourceful. So like if they can do it, I don't see why I can't do it. So then I just decided to go for it. Like I just figured like what's the worst that could happen? I'll just like have to move home at the end or something. Like I
Yeah,
don't
exactly. Like there's planes going back if it doesn't work out. Like
yeah.
most things in life, I mean, not ever, some things are permanent, but so many decisions that people are afraid to make, it is ultimately like, you know what, it's not permanent. And then if you don't do it, you might always wonder, what if I would have done that? And that's like something that scares me because I hate thinking like, oh, what if I'm like, however old and I'm looking back wondering, oh, what if I would have done that?
Yeah, that's how I am too. And then when I did it too, like I told like my friends from work, and they were like, one of my friends, she kept saying like, "Oh, that's so crazy," and then she kept being like, "But it's not. It's like so not crazy, but it's crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Like, you can really do, like, I don't know. We have so much more control than we really realize." So
Yeah. Like you do have more choices than maybe like are presented to you in this like, societal plan, but like, there are so many other options.
yeah,
Um, and we see a lot like with what we do with, I feel like we both know so many travelers who are kind of on the road all the time, obviously not right this second, but typically, so it's cool to see everyone sort of like, or all these different people kind of like going for these different passions that they have.
yeah, really.
And we're also different in like what kind of motivates us. So I feel like that's interesting as well. Um, so you moved from you moved from Canada to California for work, and then you quit your job to move to Mexico. So you kind of mentioned this already, but why Mexico? Was it because of the study abroad, or was there other reasons?
There were lots of reasons. Like the study abroad was a big part of it, but then also like when I was on that study abroad, I met my now boyfriend. So when I went on my like scouting mission, I reached out to him and was like, I just asked him if he like wanted to join me on this vacation or whatever, and he was like, yeah. And like we always like wanted to be together but couldn't because we lived in two different places, and
Mm-hmm.
we like reconnected and still had the same feelings and stuff. So that kind of like, it wasn't the ultimate reason why I went, but it did play a part, and it definitely helped me like accelerate my timeline. And I'm like grateful for that too, because I think if he hadn't been in the picture, like I would have put it off a lot longer, like probably another 6 months or something. And then who knows what would have happened. So
Like if you would have done it, yeah. Because I
yeah,
feel like you could, it's easy to kind of come up with excuses like, just should I really do this? Should I really do this? But if you have, especially people, because I feel like even when traveling, they always say, or people always say, oh, the best places are the places where you met really amazing people and, you connected with other people. It's not always the place that had like the best restaurant or, the
yeah,
craziest attraction. Um, so I feel like I could definitely see that being like a huge, like just making the place that much more special, having somebody there, even whether it's a significant other or even a friend, just like a group of people that you can rely on. I think that would
yeah.
make a place like more special.
Yeah, totally. And it makes it like less daunting too, because you're not going like into a totally new situation. Like you have at least one person to lean on when you're there. So that made it like so much easier.
Yeah.
And it helped a lot.
Yeah. I love that. Um, so we kind of talked about how long it took to make your decision to move there, but was there like a tipping point or something that was sort of like the last straw, or was it more just like going on the trip and falling in love with the place?
It was kind of that. So I went on this trip. Like really loved it. So I went to Playa del Carmen. I'd been in other parts of Mexico before, but I'd never been there, and I just really wanted to be at the beach. So I went
I like,
there.
by the way, I want to go there so bad. I feel like always hear about it from other people how amazing it is.
Yeah, you have to check it out. It's really like the beaches are so beautiful and the ocean's so beautiful. Yeah, so I went there for about a week, and then when I came back, my best friend who also worked with me at the same job, she got fired from our job. And so then I was like super unhappy, and I just was like, okay. And I felt kind of like I was probably going to be next because they were like restructuring and stuff. So I was like, okay, maybe it's time to like start moving forward with some other plans. So I went on that trip in April of 2017, and then in July I moved. But I'd been thinking about it, like seriously thinking about it since about January. So yeah, so it was like a 6-month kind of timeline, I guess.
You're just sort of waiting for something to happen. Like, okay, yeah, it's
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, because I was gonna do it like super carefully and be like, okay, I'll have like this exact amount of money saved, and all these things will, all my ducks will be in a perfect row. And then she got fired, and I was kind of like, no, like I don't want to like wait it out and then get fired and then be in like a precarious situation and not be able to go. So I was like, I'd rather like go on my own terms.
Yeah, like the situation's probably as perfect as it could be. Because yeah, when is it ever totally perfect? We're always going to have obligations at home, more work to do, more money we could make, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And like something else will always come up, like somebody will have a wedding that I have to go to or whatever, and then it will like make me delay my plans for another year, and I just didn't want to risk it, I guess. And then like, so I also like my boyfriend and I were kind of like ready to give it a try. So I was like, I don't want to be in a long distance relationship for like 6 months before I go. So that kind of helped.
Yeah. So what were kind of the biggest challenges you faced with making the move to Mexico? Maybe even things that some people might not even assume would be a challenge.
There were kind of a lot, but also like they didn't really feel like that big of obstacles, but they kind of like surfaced over time. Mm-hmm. So like one thing that I thought would be really complicated was like the logistics of doing it, but that actually like the actual logistics of executing the move were like not that hard, but like the emotional aspect of being an expat in an unfamiliar place with like not a big support system was kind of an obstacle, and actually continues to be an obstacle. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, there's like the language barrier. There's like, it's a different culture, and yeah, just like kind of feeling isolated. And then also like at the same time, I was like starting a new relationship basically, and like starting a new type of career. So I like didn't really know what I was doing in any sense of my life. So it was pretty like overwhelming at times, but it was also really exciting.
It's like a lot of changes at once.
Yeah.
Would you say like, I don't even know if there would have been a way for you like not to do it all at the same time, but I was going to say like, do you wish if you could go back, like would there have been a way, I guess, to do them separately or not so much?
I mean, if I had waited longer, I could have like built up my like writing clientele and stuff so that I had more like, I felt like I was more competent about like marketing my writing business and stuff because I make money as a freelance writer. So that would have been probably the easiest way to make it easier for me. But I really wanted to do it soon. And I also felt like it would be easier to like build up that business if I didn't also have to go to a full-time job that was like sucking all of my energy out of me every day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. Like I hear even from students in the, my blogging school, a lot of them do have full-time jobs, and it's like so challenging, to kind of like say like at the end of the day, you have to find that time somewhere. It's really hard. Like there's no really way around like your 9 to 5 if you have one, unless you have a really, really flexible boss. I mean, for me, when I started my website, I remember I was a waitress, and that was, I'm so thankful for that because I was making good money at the time, like waitressing. My restaurant was pretty busy and stuff. But it was so flexible, the hours, that it was no problem to like find these chunks of time to work on things.
Oh, nice.
So I totally get that like Yeah, that's it's like something you can't really move around too much.
Yeah, it's really hard to be creative when you have like a lot of other stuff like weighing on you. So, and then like even when like I didn't have my full-time job, but then like with all these other changes weighing on me, it was really difficult to like do things that required a lot of like mental energy because everything was so intense. Like,
Oh yeah.
but
Yeah, and I feel like when you have a lot on your mind, it's like, I mean, even now, I'm sure, anyone listening to this an hour later who's, we're dealing with this like coronavirus thing, it's like I'm trying to be creative and come up with like whatever. I was recording my podcast yesterday and stuff like that, and it's like I just find myself going on Twitter. I'm like, stop doing that. Like, stop thinking about this stuff. And like, it's tough when you just have all these things on your mind to really kind of focus and just be mentally free, I guess would be the way to put it. But I mean, you did it.
Yeah, that's how I felt. That's how I've been feeling this week too. Like it's just so hard.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things to get distracted by, but yeah, you just have
Luckily there's apps. This is something I need to try. My friend has one on her email. I don't remember the name of it, but I think it like blocks kind of the apps that you're like, okay, I need help not going on that because I don't have the self-control basically. I feel like I need to install one of those right now.
Yeah.
And it's probably healthier that way too.
Mute my news alerts or something because that's like not helping.
No, yeah. I know, like I've actually been trying to put my phone just like in a different room just because, if it's right next to you, you'll like flip it over or whatever. It's like, just don't even tempt. So we talked about biggest challenges, making the move to Mexico. What were some of the ways that you overcame these challenges?
Okay, so I didn't really go in super in depth with them, but so one of the biggest challenges was the language barrier.
Mm-hmm.
Like fortunately my boyfriend, he speaks super fluently in English, so that is like so reassuring, but then that was also problematic because I didn't really have like another community of people to like hang out with to force me to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So it took me like quite a while to actually like break through and start speaking Spanish. And it was also like really frustrating for me because when I had been on my study abroad, I left like very fluent, but obviously that was in 2010. So this is like 7 years later and I had lost most of it. And so it was like really an ego blow. But then eventually I got over it and things got so much easier. Like I just stopped caring about making mistakes and like I started speaking it all the time. And now I mostly speak Spanish, except for at home. Just because like I work in English all day. So it's like really hard to be like writing articles in English and then speaking Spanish. But yeah.
Do you guys like set aside or when you were sort of like relearning, did you sort of set aside time like at dinner we're going to speak Spanish or?
No, like I was really not disciplined about it at all. And I also felt like because there were so many other things that I was dealing with, I was like, I really don't feel like I need the stress of like feeling guilty about not speaking Spanish. So I kind of just gave myself a break. But then after like a year of living in Playa del Carmen, we moved to where we live now, which is Jalapa. And that's the city where his family lives. And most of them don't speak much English. And we never speak English with them at all. So that really like kickstarted my Spanish because I was like forced to use it basically. And it just got so much easier because then I was surrounded by it all the time too. Like we don't have like international English speaking friends here. Like people speak it, but not in their day to day. So
yeah,
it forced me to go through it.
Sounds like it happened the way it should though, because, like you were saying, you were dealing with so much stress, like to add that extra thing might've been just like too much. And now you get to learn it in like a very natural way. It sounds just being like immersed in it.
Yeah, it's so much easier because like when we were in Playa, it was just us. And like we had friends and stuff, but they were like from all over the place and it just wasn't practical to speak Spanish. But now like we do all the time and it's so much easier. And people are like really good about correcting me and stuff and they're really patient. So it's been really awesome.
Oh, that's great. Do you have, I mean, I know for you, you're like in it, like we said, so I don't know if you use any apps or tools, but if you do you have a favorite, like, do you use like Duolingo or something like that?
So I have tried using Duolingo before, but it's a little bit too basic for me, I found. But there is one called Rocket Spanish, which is paid, but they do have a free trial, which they do like grammar and reading and writing, and I think you can like talk and they'll like grade your pronunciation and stuff. So that one's pretty good. And then there's also, I don't use this, but I have friends who do, a platform called italki, and you can
Oh, I
hire
think I've heard of
tutors.
that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like Live Lingua is another one, or Live Lingua. And
Yeah, I've tried them.
yeah. And so that's cool because then you can choose if you want to learn like Colombian Spanish, you can hire somebody from Colombia or whatever it is. So
It's like the Skype or Zoom or whatever video classes, right?
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's one-on-one. So basically you just like talk to somebody as you would a friend, I guess.
like
And
a conversational class.
it's like such an important aspect of it. Like I learned so much better that way.
Hmm.
Especially if you're a traveler, like you want to learn to speak it. Like you don't probably care that much about reading novels or anything. But
Yeah. I did a immersive like Spanish school in Nicaragua a few years ago called La Mariposa, and it was basically like the morning class was learning like with the textbook, and then the next, I think that was like an hour, hour and a half, and then the next hour, hour and a half was conversational. And what was cool was sometimes like instead of just sitting face to face, we would play a board game or we would go for a walk in the local park or around the town or whatever. And it
well,
kind of just made like, instead of sitting there and being like, what did you eat for breakfast?
yeah,
It's more
yeah.
like, oh, what's that? What's that? And like, it was a little more natural, I felt. So I
It
really love that experience.
forces you to like come up with like ways to talk about different scenarios. So that's really awesome.
Yeah. Cause otherwise I would just keep asking like, what did you eat? What do you like to
Yeah.
play? Like,
What kind of music do you like?
yeah, like I know that word. So yeah, I thought that was a really neat experience. It's like being, yeah, immersed in it, I think is the best way.
Yeah. And then there's like also another thing that's really fun is for me, I like to watch Netflix in Spanish, but there's also like YouTube channels in Spanish. There's one called Alan por el Mundo, and he's a travel blogger and he goes all over the world and his videos are amazing, but they're all in Spanish and he's really easy to understand. He speaks quickly, but if anybody wants to like check that out, it's a fun way.
Say the name again?
Alan por el Mundo, but it's like por is an X, so it's Alan X el Mundo.
Oh, is that another way to write poor? X?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I
like
did not know that.
yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. That is a good idea. I remember in high school, my Spanish teacher would have us watch Carmen, I think it's called, I think it's a soap opera,
Yeah.
which was definitely a more fun way to learn, I would say, than like reading a textbook. But I didn't even think of that, like, because sometimes I think committing to a full movie or show in Spanish might be a lot, but maybe watching a YouTube video that's maybe a little bit shorter could be
Yeah.
a little more
Yeah.
digestible.
Plus they're like so visually intriguing, like you kind of don't care if you don't understand it too. Like because you're like, oh, this is like beautiful scenery of New Zealand or whatever. So
Yeah. And then in terms of, because like, you were saying just having a lot on your plate was another challenge. Did you, have a strategy to sort of like compartmentalize that, or you sort of just kind of got through it as best you could?
I basically got through it as best I could. Like I wish I had a better strategy, but basically I was just like trying to make sure I was moving forward. And then like, I mean, a lot of the challenges that I've had haven't really been like there's a lot of cultural differences and stuff that I had to overcome. But again, those kind of came later too when we moved to Jalapa also. So things did happen in stages. Like there were a lot of changes, but like they didn't, not all of the like struggles were all at the same time. So that was helpful.
Did you feel like, because Playa del Carmen's a pretty big expat community, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
did you feel like, oh, sorry?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say there's like tons of international people from Europe and Argentina and like all over Mexico and Latin America and the whole world. So
Did you feel like that was a great kind of first place to move because you maybe like dipped your toes in a little bit, like it's Mexico, but you also have like maybe people from the same country that you're from there, and then you can kind of like dip in a little bit deeper?
Yeah, it was definitely helpful, especially because like I was starting out to work online and stuff, and there's tons of like digital nomads go there for like 3 months at a time and stuff. So it was like not weird to be doing that type of work. And yeah, it was nice because it was like easy to find English speaking people to hang out with, and we like made lots of friends. who like people will just show up and like you connect with them through Facebook groups and like grab a drink or whatever.
That's nice.
Yeah, but then it's like also challenging in those communities when people like leave, because then your friend group like disintegrates.
It's like hard to have like a core group, I guess, because it's sort of like so much turnover.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was a good place to start out. And then when we came, like by the time we came here, I was like more ready for like full immersion in the culture. But I think like it's weird because I think I did kind of suffer from culture shock when we got to Jalapa a little bit, which I didn't in Playa, because it's kind of like, it's just not the same thing.
Yeah. And there you were like, I'm more immersed in it, which I think,
Yeah.
I think that makes total sense.
Yeah. And
I feel like,
oh,
no, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, like, we spent a lot of time with his family, so it's like it's not like we're just hanging out with like young people. Like, there's all these like different generational differences and like I don't know, things that make the culture shock like harder, but also kind of easier too, because like there's more people on my side. Like, we have a bigger community of support here, but like you notice the differences more because you're more immersed, I guess.
Yeah. And then oh man, what was I just gonna say? Oh, I was just gonna say it must especially with what you do, like it's not something that everyone does, like starting a blog or being a content creator or freelancing. So I feel like having those types of people around you it's so beneficial. Like in New York City, I mean, I have my friends that I've had forever. And I love them, but I also very much appreciate having like a core group of other bloggers that I can like talk about what I do with, and they get it. They get like the struggles, they get like, you know, the beauty of what you do as well. I think it's luckily, obviously nowadays we have webcams and Zoom and Facebook Live and all this stuff where everyone can kind of connect, but it's just nice to like grab a coffee with someone that you can just like either vent with or like share something exciting with or whatever it is.
That's totally true. Like, that's how I feel now too, because like most people here just have like normal jobs in offices, and like there's not really any digital nomads or anything, and so I always feel kind of like the odd one out, and like I don't know, like my schedule is like not normal, and like I don't know, there's just so many random things about my job where I'm like, I'm going to travel to this city because like I want to write an article about this event or whatever, and people were like, why would you do that? I'm like,
oh yeah,
it's like interesting. I don't know. So
and then you need time to like take notes and pictures. And when we go away with like a group, well, if it's a group of friends and we're going like on a ski weekend, I'll just relax. But sometimes if it's a trip where I'm like, okay, I have to write about this, I'm just sort of like, I'm gonna go by myself for a little while and do my weird blogger things.
I always feel so weird. I'm like, okay, I have to take 47 photos of this statue for my Instagram or whatever. Well, not quite, but and then everybody's like, can we just like get a beer or whatever?
I know, like I'm done with this. No, totally. Do you feel like, and it's probably different in, you know, different places. Were there any groups like, I don't know, couch surfing or meetup or anything that helped you find other, whether expats or even locals that had the same interests as you, just to like hang out with?
There have been, so not really for Jalapa so much in person, but like when we were in Playa, there's like lots of Playa digital nomad groups, so that was helpful. And then
Like
also, like on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just like general like digital nomad groups, like and like like female digital nomads and stuff like that have been really helpful, and like blogging groups have been really helpful. But that is like one thing that I'm like kind of frustrated with where I am now, is like I don't have any like in-person like digi nomad friends to like hang out with, which is annoying sometimes, but I'll figure it out. I guess.
Yeah, there's gotta be, I mean, you have to do a little like trip into a nearby city or something, but might be worth like trying to host even like a meetup somewhere. I know so many travelers and travel bloggers that are based in Mexico. I guess they're all kind of like either Playa del Carmen, Mexico City, or even like what's the other one? Merida? Is that how you say it?
Merida, it's really,
I feel like a lot of people go there as well.
I should like we should try to do like a meetup in Mexico City or something, because there are quite a few Mexico bloggers, like probably more than you know about, but there's at least like 12 of us that our paths cross like digitally all the time. So
Yeah, they're definitely. And then Girls Love Travel, that group has
Oh,
like
yeah.
crazy amount of people. I'm sure there's got to be some
Yeah.
other female travelers in there who are.
Well, and like also probably like locals who are like interested in meeting up and like, I mean, I know there are like Mexican people who have blogs and stuff too, so I just have to find those people.
Luckily, there's so many ways now.
Yeah.
I know for me, like I've always found couch surfing. I mean, I've couch surfed too, but I like the like ability to just chat and with people in different cities.
Yeah.
I haven't used the feature in a while, so I don't know what it looks like now. But I mean, in the past, I've kind of gone to like community threads and been like, I'm here. Like, who wants to get a drink, get a coffee, go to this beach, whatever it is. And it's been super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, like all the groups online are so awesome. Like it's, I don't know, it's crazy because I like usually I don't expect anybody to be near me, and then like 100 people are like, yeah, we're like right there right now. Let's hang out.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
um, so before moving to Mexico, as you were planning your trip, what was kind of the life you envisioned for yourself before you moved, before you even got there?
I really just wanted to have like freedom because like so I'd been living in California for like 5 years, but most of my family and friends are in Canada, and then some of them are in the US, and then obviously I wanted to move to Mexico. So what I really wanted was like freedom and flexibility and like
Mm-hmm.
financial capability to like travel and visit people more than like once a year. Yeah, like I just wanted to build like a truly location independent business somehow. And then I also wanted to do something that like I really enjoyed, which turned out to be writing. And then yeah, like I really wanted to have like a better work life balance because I didn't want to like feel like I was spending all my life working and not really like living or whatever. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's like this idea of, waiting till whatever retirement or 2 weeks your vacation to relax and have fun when like, life is so short. We should probably be doing that as much as we can on a daily
yeah,
basis.
yeah, and like I don't know, like it just feels so depressing to me not to like actually live your life.
Oh yeah.
And
I
then
know. And sometimes you get caught up. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, like haven't haven't like I've been spending a little too much time on this laptop.
yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel too sometimes. And now like we're not supposed to leave our house. Well, we're self-imposing quarantine, so I'm like, okay, I guess now I have like an excuse, but
I know. There's a really funny meme that it's on my like personal Facebook page, but it's um like a Muppet or something, and it's like so you're saying my daily lifestyle. No, so when you learn that the word for your daily lifestyle is called quarantine,
oh yeah, I've
that's just
seen
like
that.
what you do all the time anyway.
Or it's like freelancers before self quarantine and during self quarantine. It's like the same.
Same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the hardest part for us is like the travel part. Like honestly, during the I like to like do my yoga classes out and stuff. So like there's some things, but there's definitely days where I don't, I could work from home very easily because it's like something I've always done. I'm kind of like teaching my fiance. I just went today's the last day they're allowed to go pick up their stuff from the school because the schools are closed now. So we went to just like go grab the last of his things because they actually might be working from home for the rest of the year, which we'll see what happens with that. But I'm like trying to teach him like how to work from home and like stay on top of yourself and stuff. It's interesting just because I've been doing this since 2010-ish. So like it's fine. I wanted to ask, like, do you feel like, you were saying, oh, the dream was really the freedom. Do you feel like if you would have quit your job and still kind of like started the business that you wanted, the blog and the freelancing in California or in Vancouver, would you still have found that? Or do you feel like you really needed to kind of like get away to really make that happen?
I think I would have found it. But I felt like also like I feel like when you make all those changes at one time, it's like, it kind of feels like a clean slate. So it's easy to like form new habits. And so that was kind of what I was looking for too. But yeah, I definitely could have done it in California. Like actually before I did this, I did have like I had like a pet sitting service, like a dog walking and pet sitting business that I like started myself from scratch.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, so that was like my
Cool.
first like foray into entrepreneurship, I guess. Like I was like between jobs and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna start doing this like on the side to like earn extra money. And then it like became like pretty lucrative. So I just stuck with it for a really long time. And so that was really awesome. So then I thought like, well, if I can do something like that, which is like kind of even harder because like all of the clients have to be in the same geographic area, then like why can't I start a business that's on the internet where people can be anywhere? Like how hard can that be?
That is
So I kind of knew that I had what it took.
like
And
you have
like
that
I really
entrepreneurial.
always wanted that freedom of the dog walking thing. But then the problem with that was like if I ever wanted to take vacation, then like who would look after all of the cute dogs? So
Yeah. I know that's like I have the tour company on top of my blog, and what I've done now is I've hired new guides because I was running into the same thing where I'm like, okay, like I love leading the tours, but I also need to like, write my travel stories, and I love to travel and stuff like that. So it's yeah, definitely as it grew, I was like, I need to bring on some team members.
yeah. Yeah, that was the thing. That was like the downfall with that business. Like and because of where I was living, like it wasn't that easy to bring people on because I was like in Malibu, which is like slightly outside of LA, and there's like not that many people there. So
Mhm.
it was like hard for me to find somebody to cover me. But
Yeah.
that was like the best job ever, though, I have to say, because I literally just looked after like designer dogs and like hung out in giant mansions and like
Oh my gosh.
like it was so awesome.
Anything with animals, I would be very happy to do forever, like 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I don't mind if I like, I mean, I wanted more freedom from that job, but also I was like, well, I spend most of my time with like adorable animals. So I can't really.
Yeah, it's not like the worst.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I also feel like moving abroad, like when you're home or when you're, a place that's super familiar, you kind of like get into routine, which I think can be a good thing, but sometimes you like, I guess, lose that like curiosity that is so amazing when you travel. It's like everything's interesting. Like the way someone serves coffee is interesting. The way people say hello to each other is interesting. Where here, like actually interesting things happen, and I'm like, meh. Like
Yeah.
it's New York City. People like do the craziest things sometimes, and I'm just like, no, whatever.
There's nothing interesting happening here. I need to go on a trip.
Exactly. And then like I'll go to like another country, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like the way they hug is so interesting. Like everything's just so new and different, and you're like learning about a place. So
Yeah.
I think that's probably a benefit too of like the freedom and just kind of like shedding that old skin and being like, I want to see and do everything. Like you're just so energized.
Yeah, totally. Like, and you're not like burdened by like your like past self or whatever, because it's like a totally clean slate.
Exactly. Um, so then once in Mexico, what steps did you take to make sure this vision really came to life with like the freedom you were envisioning and, the new job and all of that?
Well, I did a lot of like scattered things, but they all kind of came together. So like, I had started my blog before I left, but it wasn't really like about Mexico specifically. It was just like about hiking in California. But then, well, yeah, and then once I got to Mexico, I was like, well, I can't really write about hiking here because there isn't any. But I was like, I basically just wanted it to be like a portfolio to get freelance writing jobs, and I didn't really like put a lot of stock into monetizing it until like a little bit later, or like turning it into like my full-time job. But then like as I went through everything that I went through, I realized that it would have been like really nice to have a resource for like how to like move to Mexico or how to travel in Mexico and stuff, especially for like someone like me who's not from there and who's a woman and who's by herself often. So then I just decided to like kind of write about things that are like related to that. And so that was helpful. And it did end up being like a really valuable portfolio piece and still is. And like a lot of people hire me because they like what I write on there.
Yeah. And I love that you're like an expert on a specific thing versus like, I mean, nothing wrong with like also being, kind of like knowing a lot about a lot of different places, but I feel like the fact that you have a website that's really just about Mexico is just beneficial because you didn't just go there for 3 days and then like an article about it. You're like there, you live there, you're dating someone from there. Like,
Yeah, and it was like I felt better about it once I decided to do that too, because before it was so general and I always had so much like trouble figuring out what to write about because I was like, well, what gives me the authority to write about like anything else? So I just started writing about like things that I had kind of been through and experienced, and so it's just
Yeah.
so much easier this way for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really fun, and I like having like a specific thing to focus on. It makes it so much easier.
Yeah, and I love like it sounds like you basically created something that you wish you had when you were kind of moving there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I haven't written a lot about like the experience of moving to Mexico yet, but I really want to. So
Yeah.
that
Well,
will
you
be
write about like things though that I feel like could help, like resources for people that maybe are making the move. And even if you're not saying exactly like this is how I moved there, I feel like still having like these tips and these guides from someone who, a female who went there solo, especially if it, other females are looking for this information, that's going to be extremely helpful.
yeah, I always try to be really detailed, like and provide like really like I don't know, just like really detailed info that will like help people like blend in a little bit more, I guess, or like feel
Hmm.
more integrated because it just makes everything so much easier if you like understand more like of the cultural nuances and like why things are the way they are. It's just like less stressful and confusing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I feel like, I mean, I've run into that too, where like I do a lot of hiking. It's kind of different, but I'm just thinking like, you have the general, here are the best hikes in this area. And you're like, okay, I'm gonna do that one. It looks great. And then you get there and you realize like, okay, the author left out that like I would need to rent a car
Yeah.
or that I would need to take 20 buses and then walk 10 miles. Like I feel like it's good to just know what exactly needs to kind of be done to get from point A to point B. And even if it's not super super detailed, just saying like you're gonna spend like 2 hours on a train and you'll need to make a switch, like just so you know that going into it and you don't think you're just gonna like hop in an Uber or whatever and be there in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like it's
That's
helpful.
so important.
Yeah. um so then now you're in Mexico, and when you were there you actually fell in love with a local Hector, who you've now been dating for 3 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We're about to have our third anniversary next month.
Oh my gosh, congrats. um So, how did you meet? Was it study abroad? You said.
Yeah, so we met in 2010. I was studying abroad in Jalapa, which is where we live now, and we just like met at a party and really hit it off. And then we kind of became friends, and like I don't know, we had like a really strong connection. Like we wanted to date, but we couldn't really because like I was going back to Canada and he was actually moving to Mexico City. So we were just like Skype friends, and we like talked about music a lot and stuff, and just like had a really strong connection. So then when I was ready to come, like when I was coming back here, it was just natural to reach out to him and be like, hey, like I'm going to the beach. Do you want to come? And he was like, yeah, I'm actually moving there to
Oh my
Playa del
gosh,
Carmen. So I'll be here and like, let's definitely meet up. So we did. And the rest is history.
that really kind of sounds like fate, though. That like he was moving there. I don't know. That's the timing is like kind of perfect because you
Well,
were in different countries. Like that could have.
yeah.
That didn't
Well, we had like like we've been keeping in touch a little bit, and then like he had a friend who lived in Playa del Carmen, and I think that was part of the reason that I wanted to go because I was like, oh, I bet like because I'm friends with him, and then I have other friends who are also friends with him, so I was like, well, if I go to Playa del Carmen, like probably one of those guys will be around, and we can like go for a drink or whatever.
Yeah.
So I reached out to him first, obviously, because we're the closest. And he was like, yeah, I'm actually moving there. So like his friend had just moved. This is like so weird and like logistical details that don't matter, but whatever. His friend had just moved back from Playa del Carmen to Mexico City. And then Hector left Mexico City and moved to Playa del Carmen.
Oh my
Kind
gosh.
of weird.
Exactly when you needed him to be there.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love like just stories of like timing because like a lot of people say oh timing is everything and it kind of is. Like my fiance and I were friends for a really long time. We met in high school, in college, freshman year. We're best friends. Then I transferred. We kind of lost touch. Like, and we did not date. We had no romantic feelings. But like looking back, I'm kind of glad because I don't know if it would have worked out the way it did if we didn't re-meet later on in life and like be in the right spot. So I feel like it's, I don't know, it's so cool, I guess, how things work out like that sometimes, when the
Yeah,
timing is so perfect.
that's how I felt too. And like, I don't know, like things change when you get older too. And like you see all these things happen. Like I had a friend who died really young. And so then that kind of like made me want to like live in the moment more. And then I had another friend who like, she like moved abroad because her now husband is from another country. Actually, I had a couple friends who like moved abroad for their partners who they met on study abroads and or traveling or whatever. So I was like, well, obviously like this can work. It's like what you were saying before about like having the model, like you see somebody else do it and then you're like, okay, like this can be me too. So
yeah,
because when we first met, like Hector and I were like 21. And then when we like got together again, we were like 27 or 28. So
oh
like
wow.
changed in our lives. Like we both grew up.
And it's good because I feel like, 21, maybe you were young, maybe like you still had things you need to experience, whatever. And then like, you meet again in that right spot.
Yeah.
That's the same age as pretty well. I guess we were more like 18, and then we reconnected 27, 28. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
So then how has being in a relationship with a local affected the transition into expat life?
I think it made it a lot easier, but then also like it would have been totally different if we weren't together. Like I probably wouldn't have like integrated so much into, well, I don't know. Like it wouldn't have been the same level of integration into like the culture and stuff because like if I didn't have him, like if I had just had like a local friend or whatever, I probably wouldn't like spend so much time with their family and like be forced to attend all these different like family events and stuff.
Like
but
holidays.
Exactly. But yeah, like he's been really helpful because like at first there were just so many things that I didn't understand, like weird noises or like I don't know, just there's like this whistle that blows every night in the middle of the night. And for a long time I thought it was a bird. And I was like, why is this freaking bird singing at 2 a.m.? Security guard that walks around and like blows a whistle like for hours, like from like 1 a.m. until 5 a.m. or something. And like I never would have known that otherwise. So just like little things like that. Like,
that's just something that goes on in like the town you live in?
Yeah, like in Jalapa.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why they blow a whistle, but they do. So.
Yeah. Like I guess you get used to it and then you learn to sleep.
Yeah. There's so many noises. Like every time we have a call, I'm like, sorry about the dogs or the construction or the like whatever. But
oh yeah.
But
I definitely feel you on the construction. Luckily, I mean, today it's, even with this, we're not in it's not full lockdown. Like some stores are still open here, but like there still is daily construction. I'm like, give everyone off. Let's us just have some,
just chill out.
But yeah, there's always something going on, whether it's outside or like in the apartment above me or something. It's, can't get. We're actually looking for like a place to buy right now, kind of put on pause right now because of this coronavirus stuff. But like, I'm so hesitant to put so much money down because I'm like, I want to test it for a week just to know the noise levels.
Yeah.
Before I commit. But yeah.
Yeah, it's so like confusing. Like when we were in Playa, like he was living in this apartment before I got there. And like the first time I visited was in April. And so I went to his apartment and it was like surrounded by like all this jungle because it was like on the edge of town. And then I went back in a month later to visit him again. And they had plowed down like 4 acres of land and started building condos. Like,
oh my god.
Like, okay. Like
it's different now.
Yeah, we did not stay
there. Yeah, I would not have liked that. And then just 2 more questions, just more about like just Mexico in general. Well, I guess this is kind of personal, but what is the biggest challenge for you of living in Mexico?
I think like the safety issue, but not so much like that I feel like I'm not safe, but just that like the culture around it is like often, because I travel a lot and I often travel by myself because Hector can't always come with me and I like traveling by myself anyways. Mm-hmm. And then like often people are like, oh my God, like why would you go by yourself? Or like, why would you go on the street by yourself? It's not safe. And like, I know they're coming from like a place of concern and I guess like there are things to be afraid of, but also just hearing that all the time kind of like creates paranoia and like
Yeah.
insecurity and stuff. And I just really don't like that part of it.
Yeah.
So it's like just a matter of like trying to balance like how much I feel safe and how much like precaution is necessary. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Oh no, totally. I feel like even like we have a lot of family they lived in the city in New York City like when it was bad, and even though like they see it now, they still have this idea in their head. And I know like this woman I know was like, you don't wear your engagement ring in the city, right? I'm like, well, I live in the city, so I mean, yes, I do. Like, no, I just like, I don't just leave it on my dresser or whatever. So like I feel like they still have an idea of what it was when I'm like, no, it's fine, you can wear your wedding ring and everything. But yeah, I know like hearing it over and over again, you sort of go, well, should I feel weird about it? I didn't, but
Yeah.
it make me feel like I should.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I do think it's important to like not take it for granted, obviously, but like, I don't know. I just don't want to like feel like I have to go in the street only with like a male escort and stuff. Like, that's not a fun feeling. And that's like a really
Oh,
difficult thing for me to deal with. Cause like, obviously in Canada, like, I can just leave the house and like walk freely at any time of day and like not worry about anything.
yeah.
At least where I live. But here it's not quite like that. So like I don't walk alone at night, but I do like walk alone in the street and I don't feel like I'm in danger.
Yeah. It's like, I guess, being real and aware, like realistic and aware without being like panicked and fearful.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is stressful. And then it's also like sad too, because like I've talked to a lot of people about it. And like my boyfriend's mom, she said like when she was a kid, like they didn't have bars on their windows. They didn't have to lock things up. Like it wasn't like dangerous. Like it was just, I don't know, like they could like not lock their doors at night and stuff. And now everybody always has like every house has bars on the windows.
Oh
Everybody
my
like leaves their
gosh.
door locked during the day. And it's not like people are like pounding the doors down or whatever, but like there is theft and there like things happen. But
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
wow. So it like went the other way versus like getting safer over time.
yeah. So it's
Mhm.
kind of it's sad to hear that because like I can only imagine how like that transition must have been
Yeah.
for them. But
And I guess like because you travel around Mexico, each kind of city, town, whatever has its own, I guess, concerns or not
yeah,
like maybe it's like super safe and then something like I feel like people think of Mexico basically as like one thing, like one everything like is the same sort of, but I'm assuming like it's probably quite different just depending where you're going.
yeah, it's really big. And then like some places are more secure than others. And like for instance, like Veracruz, the state where I live, is like not doesn't have a great reputation. And then like other places like Merida, for instance, is like one of the most like safe cities supposedly in
Hmm.
they say all of North America, but I'm not sure. But at
Really?
least Mexico and like the vibes are just different and like yeah, so it's kind of weird, but it's um yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but also like it shows that you have to do your research because like there are some cities where like I wouldn't go
Yeah. And
and
I guess like instead of thinking like, oh, is Mexico safe or not safe? It's like, no, you need to look at the exact places you're going and
yeah.
seeing what you should be actually like thinking about or concerned about or whatever.
Yeah, and even like in some cities, like in Mexico City, there's like some neighborhoods that you like probably shouldn't visit and stuff. But it's like the same everywhere. Like in Canada, there's like bad neighborhoods and bad cities too. And
Oh yeah,
I'm sure in
absolutely.
New York, it's like that. Like so,
Yeah, totally.
yeah. I think
Um,
one thing too is like people don't realize how big Mexico is because I feel like people associate it with like a small area that they visit or like it just looks a lot smaller on the map than like Canada or the US, but it's actually like still huge. So
yeah.
it's
Do you
not
know how
really
long it takes to like drive, I don't know, like east to west or even north to south?
no east to west, but probably like from where we live in Jalapa, which is like kind of in the middle-ish of the country to like the border of Texas, it's like 14 or 15 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty big.
So it would be like 30 hours to drive kind of
Yeah,
probably like
probably.
the whole.
Yeah, probably more. Because I think from here, So we're like 5 hours south or like east of Mexico City, basically. And then from here to like Cancun is like 20 hours, I
Oh
think.
my gosh. Yeah, I did not realize that either.
Yeah, so it's really big.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So definitely, yeah. Look up each place is into like its own
Yeah.
unique spot. Do the research.
Yeah. It's not like the same everywhere. So
Yeah. And then just for one final question, what is your favorite thing about living in Mexico?
I just really like the culture. Like I've always been really drawn to like how open and warm and like welcoming everybody is. And like I don't know, like in Canada, I feel like we're not quite like that. Like we're more introverted and stuff. And like I'm very introverted, but I really like that Mexico like challenges that in me. And like I don't know, I just it's really community oriented. Like most families are really close and like I don't know, it's just really nice. It's really reassuring. And there's like so much art and like I don't know. I just really like it. It has like a good energy, I guess.
When you say warm, is it more like you'll be walking down the street and people will just like chat to you and invite you into like whatever, their shop or whatever kind of thing?
Yeah,
Or?
kind of like most people will like strike up a conversation with them if you give them the opportunity or like yeah, people are just super welcoming or like if you ever need anything and ask for help, like people often like, will go way out of their way to give you a hand and like stuff
Like
like that.
walk you to where you want to go, not just like, oh yeah, that way. Down the street and people will just
Yeah. So that's like it just, I don't know, it's kind of just like feels like a warm hug, the culture kind of. And then like they celebrate things so much and like have so much heart and pride and I really like that. It feels like really united.
Oh, I love that. It was just because when you were like, in Canada, you feel like you're more introverted. I'm like, I think of Canadians as so friendly.
I
But
know,
I'm
like
like, New York City is like,
asking me about that. Like I have a friend who's a teacher here and sometimes she invites me to her class to like talk about Canada. And everybody's always like, well, aren't Canadians like really nice? And I'm like, yeah, but we're not like Mexicans. Like we're not like gonna come up to you and like invite you to a barbecue like without ever saying hi.
oh, that's
Or, like
cool.
in Mexico, I feel like that's almost like how it is. Or like I don't know, anytime I have like a friend come visit me, like my boyfriend's family's like, oh my God, your friend's coming. Like, we're going to get everybody together and have a big party and like do all this stuff so that she knows that you're in good hands and we're taking good care of you and stuff. And so, like in Canada, we'd just be like, oh, hey, like, nice to meet you.
Like,
Like,
sure, you can bring a +1.
but
Yeah.
you go home by 9. Like, no.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's that kind of feeling is so different than, I mean, New York City, I think has a worse rep than it actually has, but it's definitely not like warm. Wouldn't say it's like a warm hug. I would say the people are nicer than you would expect.
Yeah.
People will help you if you ask or whatever, but they're not gonna maybe like walk with you to there. They'll just sort of like, here, let me help you. But yeah, I love like because I'm immersed in that all the time. I love going to places where it does feel like that other side of things, where it's like, oh, this is like so different. And then sometimes because I'm not used to it, I'm like a little mistrusting.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
when I warm up to it, I'm like, okay, no, I like this. I like this.
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit of getting used to. I'm like, well, why do we have to make such a big deal about everything? And everybody's like, because it's like this person's birthday or it's like day of the teacher or whatever. And like, there's always like an excuse for a party or like.
Oh, I love it. It's like living life. Like, why not? Why not?
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know, people are like more upbeat and positive and like instead of dwelling on like all of these like stressful things, like they're like, okay, here's how we can make the best of this situation.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking too, like moving, like seeing how you are in different places, whether it's Mexico or wherever else, probably gives you a chance. Like I know, I mean, I live where I'm from, but I have traveled, I have like stayed in places for longer times. And it's like, you kind of get to know different versions of yourself and maybe like, in one city you might have been in a little bit of a rut and then you move somewhere and you're like, wow, this like brings out better qualities in myself or like qualities in me that I didn't even know existed, especially if it's in like a warm celebratory place like that. You might even discover like a part of yourself that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Like I'm such an introvert and like I don't know. Like, I could definitely do like JD Salinger and like go into a cabin in the woods for like 70 years and like not even worry about it. But like being here definitely brings out more an extroverted side of me. So I really like that.
Amazing. And then just to kind of end everything, I'm going to put some links in the chat too. Can you let everyone know where they can find you and maybe how they can get in touch with you if they have questions about moving to Mexico or just like the whole expat thing, moving abroad?
Yeah. So my website is janineintheworld.com.
I'm putting that in the chat now.
I also have a Facebook group called Female Travelers in Mexico. And so people can like join that and drop questions and stuff, or reach out to me by email through my blog page. And yeah, I'm always here for any questions to help people like have an awesome time in Mexico. Probably not in the near future, but well, hopefully the near future. But.
Yeah, hopefully not too far in the future, but you know, take this time to dream and plan and like think of all the possibilities, and then and then come to Janine for like the further questions and finalizing down in hopefully not too many months, but yeah. Well, amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time. This was so interesting, and like I don't know, especially right now when we're kind of inside, I feel like it's like really exciting to talk about travel. I mean, it always is, but even more so right now.
Plus, it's just nice to like talk to somebody in general. So.
I know. It's like me and my cat, who's just like,
oh,
he's been well, and my fiance, who we're adjusting to working in the same room, but it'll be good. But what was I just gonna say? Oh, and then I just wanted to mention too, for anyone who's interested in like reading a written version of this or a similar written version, I'm going to be embedding this video in a blog post that I'll be publishing, the next, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, like in the next few days though. So I will post that here as well. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.